This example came to me the other day when I was doing a individual session with someone, and I talked about the two perspectives and using the impressionist painting, which I do often use as a metaphor. And from one perspective, it looks like something, doesn't it? And we look at a Monet, and it looks like whatever it was he painted. Okay, the lilies on the pond, is famous. He did many of these paintings, and there's another one I saw when I was in LA, of this cathedral. I forget what the cathedral was. Anyway, so it looks like something, and then we can also investigate what's there. So the ordinary view is, oh no, that's it. That's what it is. It looks like that. That's what it is, right? This is our conceptualizing the conclusions that we draw about what things are. And then we can look a little bit more carefully, and in the terms of the painting, we can go up and look at it more closely and discover its empty nature, beyond thought, beyond form, right? It's absolutely, the forms are no longer there. Well, wait a minute. Uh, I just saw that they were there. Now I'm seeing that they're not there, right? Now I could just stay there and never see form, in a sense, and just see emptiness. And that's quite enjoyable and open-ended and beautiful and transcendental. And then I might want to take a step back again and see the form again and look at the painting and live in the world of form and describability, and talk to my partner or my friends about what's going on in their life and my life. And all of that is thought. All of that is conceptualizing, right? And it's like a playground, in a sense, the playground of form, of seeming forms. But they're conceived into existence, in a sense, by the way consciousness is rendering itself. It's like it's like I don't profess to understand any of this, right? Like, in a way, I mean, it's not understandable, but it's like it looks formed, and then you can investigate the forms, like with the Monet painting, and realize, right, that it's formless. So part of what I'm pointing to in response to your question is that at a certain point in our journey, we could say, I don't like to usually talk about this as a process, but I will for a moment, that when we believe all there are the forms and the interpretations, that's all that's true, you know, it's sometimes that's an okay world, and sometimes it's a hell realm. And look at human life writ large, and what do you see? You see a lot of what we could call suffering, how people would describe as suffering. The epidemic, particularly among young people, of anxiety and depression. I mean, what's going on? Okay, so that world is, yeah, we could call it the playground of consciousness, but it's often experienced as not that much fun and maybe terrifying, and right, like I was saying. So it can be useful from the standpoint of the resolution of human suffering and enhancing well-being and enjoyment of life, to see, to look at the painting, to get up close to the painting and realize, oh my God, what I thought was this concrete thing that I'm stuck in or traumatized by or overwhelmed by or stressed by or whatever, and threatening me, is not that at all. It's this open-ended, right, dance of consciousness, energy, who knows what it is, right? But suddenly, oh my God, it's like there's a freedom in seeing that. It changes how the forms can be encountered. It doesn't eliminate the forms, it just changes how they're encountered. And so part of the, path, if you will, is one of seeing that, right? That it's not merely what we think it is. And it can often seem like you said, that when I'm thinking, somehow I've lost touch with its infinite nature, because now I'm conceiving it, I'm making it finite, I'm describing it, I'm dumbing it down. And yeah, you are, in a sense. I mean, your consciousness is. And that is somewhat analogous to, yeah, you know what? I want to look at the forms. Like, I want to look at the painting and see it as something, because that's also enjoyable, right? It's like, this is not a conversation. There is no conversation here. There's transcendental unresolvability. And yet, no, I want to enjoy it as a conversation with another cool human. So that's the form. That's conceptualization. It's okay. It's okay. It's beautiful. And, but it's also not the whole story. Yeah. And so the other thing I would say is that if you talk about kind of a process, put it in this process terms, it's like we have this opportunity in every moment to see, to sort of clarify what the nature of everything is. And so to see that the thoughts are not merely thoughts, that the thoughts don't collapse infinity down into something finite, even though it seems that way. We can keep seeing that. And then there is this tendency in my experience that increasingly there's kind of like uh, it's like the fragrance of the unresolvability of it, the infinity of it, the boundlessness of it is always there, but maybe less obvious. And I think over time that even when we're just in the throes of thinking and living our lives as part of that, um, that fragrance just becomes more and more. It's like all of it just gets experienced in subtler, more nuanced, more inconceivable kinds of ways. Just as a matter of having investigated it, and every time we investigate, we can discover like, oh wow, my thought is also boundless and indescribable, and it's not a problem either. And then that understanding just kind of starts to sort of like you take a piece of cloth and you put it in the dye, and the dye just spreads, to the whole cloth. And the dye, and right now the dye of this being God is already, the die is cast. It's all God. And then we have this opportunity to recognize that seemingly again and again and again. Um, because it's enjoyable to do that. It's liberating to do that. And it lessens stress and suffering immensely. And for me, and this, so well, one last thing, because your question is something that I get a lot, and a lot of people are I think, asking, how do we make this more stable, this understanding, so that it's not so dependent on showing up at meetings like this or whatever, listening to talks or meditating or whatever we find seems to bring it more to the fore. I think it's coming to see that this is inherently itself. It's inherently stabilized already. It just is that way because that's what we are and everything is. And so if there's anything called making this more abiding as an understanding, it's to see that it abides. It just abides because it's the only thing that exists. We're not apart from it. We're not ultimately apart from it recognizing it. We are it, right? It's all that exists.